Hi guys, Danica Ferrante here from mybeautyscraps.com. I am so excited to share this card with you guys today. First of all, it's my first card of the new year, so happy 2017 everyone. And second of all, it's also my first blog hop of the new year. For those of you new to my channel, I am a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, and I've gotten together with a group of very talented demonstrators, and we do a blog hop on the first of every month. And sometimes we have guest bloggers, and today we have the always inspiring Janet Wakeland. I love to watch her videos and read her blog over at remarkablycreated.com. She's just awesome. So after you watch this video, if you're watching it on YouTube, head over to my blog and check out the blog hop. This month, we do have a theme every month, and this month our theme is new products from the Spring 2017 Occasions catalog and Sale-A-Bration catalogs. And the Dragonfly Dreams is just one of my favorite stamp sets in the new catalog. I think it's going to be a must-have. I think it's going to be very popular. There's such a gorgeous dragonfly with beautiful watercolor wings and elements. That bumblebee is adorable. I'm definitely using him on my next project. And there's some really great sentiments included in this set. So it's nice and versatile. Enjoy Your Special Day would be a wonderful one to use for birthdays or congratulation cards. There's thanks for the smile and everything else. You sure know how to make somebody happy, and to a wonderful friend. So there's some really beautiful sentiments here. And of course, the coordinating dies. I just love them. You guys know I am totally a sucker for a coordinating die set. I love die cutting. So I combined all of that on this card today. So let me stop rambling and I'll show you how I created it. All right, so first these are the inks we're going to use. We're going to use the So Saffron ink pad, the Smoky Slate ink pad, this very cool ombre ink pad, which is in Bermuda Bay, and we're also using the basic black Stampin' Right marker. There we go. This card was actually completely inspired by me wanting to use that stamp set and this ombre ink pad. And these are the adhesives we're using today. We're going to be using Fast Fuse, but you can also use Snail. I've just recently really fallen in love with Fast Fuse. Snail has always had my heart, but Fast Fuse I think has won me over. It is a little bit of a learning curve if you're used to using Snail, but I use Fast Fuse on almost everything right now. And the fine tip glue pen, this one is going to be key for this project. So you know how sometimes you start out, you're ready to create a card, and maybe you have the perfect idea of what you want to create in your mind, or you've seen something on Pinterest that you want to recreate, but then there's those other times where you don't really know, or you kind of have a fuzzy idea and you want to see how it's going to work out, and maybe it doesn't. That's what happened to me. So I'm actually going to bring in, I know I have my grid paper down, but I don't want to completely ruin it yet. So I'm going to bring in this messy piece of grid paper that I was working on and show you what my idea was. So this ombre ink pad, if you can see there, it's got 5 mini ink pads in it. So it's 5 different tones of Bermuda Bay. Now, it was my idea to use this to create a background for my card. So I cut down a little piece of watercolor paper, and I wanted to just squish the ink pad right in it and drag it across. Now that looks hideous, right? Not great. But I still wasn't giving up. I thought this vision would end up working out. So I kept going and continued marking it up with more and more ink. And then I was like, once I add watercolor to that, it's going to be gorgeous. So I took one of my aqua painter pens and just started loading it up with color. Scribbling it all over. You don't have to be very careful. Just getting the whole paper really saturated with water, trying to blend out that color. But as you can see, it wasn't quite going how I planned. You can still see a lot of those streaky marks. It really wasn't blending perfectly. And, you know, our ink pads aren't designed to be smashed right into paper. So certainly not the ink pad's fault. But I wasn't thrilled with that as a background to my card. But you know me, I don't like throwing anything away. So after I created this little mess right here, I thought to myself, what can I do with that? Because I don't want to just throw it in the garbage. So I put it aside to dry, and let me bring in one of the dry pieces. Let's see right here. So definitely nothing beautiful, nothing you want to use as the front of your card, right? So I decided to die cut it, and I ended up die cutting using the open Dragonfly. I die cut one on a piece of vellum, and I die cut the open Dragonfly out of this watercolor mess right here. I did some in this orientation and some in this orientation, and it really didn't matter too much which one you use. It just kind of gave a nice effect, and when layered underneath the black detailed layer, it just really looked pretty cool. Cooler than just using a piece of Bermuda Bay cardstock. So I thought that was fun. And when you put the vellum in the middle, I just liked it even more because it kind of smoothed out any of those rough looking areas and just gave a really cool kind of stained glass effect. So here is where the fine tip glue pen becomes very important. I just used the fine tip glue pen, and I just drew a line down the dragonfly's body. I'm not adhering the wings together. And then line that right up. And the fine tip glue does take a second to dry. You do have a little while where you have some wiggle room there. And if you have it where you want it, you don't want it to wiggle. And then I took another line of the fine tip glue right down the body again and put the cardstock layer on top. And here is where I had another idea out of a mistake. So when I squished them together, I got some glue on top of the dragonfly body, and it dries clear, but it's going to make that area shiny. So that's when I thought, I remember kind of doing a heat embossed effect using the Crystal Effects. If you layer that over something, it looks like embossing. So I'm going to bring my messy piece back in again and show you what I did to make that dragonfly all shiny. I just covered the top layer using the fine tip glue pen, because this glue is just like the Crystal Effects. So if you wanted to emboss, heat emboss this die cut dragonfly, you could squish a Versamark ink pad over it, bring out your embossing powder, and heat that up with your heat tool. But I thought this was another fun way. Like maybe you haven't really gotten into heat embossing yet. This is kind of like a faux heat embossed technique. It does take a little patience, but you know, of course, I had my YouTube videos on in the background, catching up on some of my favorite YouTubers as I played around with this glue. So it's really easy with this fine tip pen to just trace along the cardstock. And then I left the tail to last, so I had something to hold on to while I did that. And sometimes you get a bubble. In the end, I take a little scrap of cardstock and pop those. I should say my fingers are covered in ink and glue. So if you have been following my channel, you know usually my cards are clean and simple, quick and easy. That's the way I usually like it. But every now and then you just want to get your hands dirty and get your fingers inky and make a mess and make a more intricate card. So I don't want to say complicated though, because this is really easy to make, but it does take a little more time than most of the cards that I create. So this also takes a while to dry. So I would recommend putting it aside to dry overnight. I actually got a little impatient with one of my dragonflies and I squished him a little, so I had to add a little more glue to fix it and wait again. So I recommend overnight. You could also break out your heat tool to dry it if you have one, but if you let him sit to dry overnight, he should be fine. So for the sake of time, I did another one ahead of time, and I'll show you how it turns out. So here you can see my inky fingers and how beautiful that dragonfly turns out when it's all dry. The black cardstock is all glossy, and then you can see the layer of vellum and then the watercolor layer. And his little wings are left open on your card, so the recipient of your card can see that too. All right, so I'm going to put my little dragonfly to the side while we create our card. So the card base is in smoky slate, and it's a standard size 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. Our first layering piece in basic black is 4 inches by 5 1/4 inches. And then our next layering piece of Whisper White is 3 3/4 by 5 inches. So we're just going down 1/4 inch on each side every time for each layer. And now let's create that gorgeous background. So I'm going to start off with So Saffron and work my way around the edges of the card. Oops, I had a little Bermuda Bay in there still. Clean your stamps. When I stamped this, I did it pretty randomly, but I also kept it not quite on the edge. I came in a little bit from the edge to kind of leave room to layer in the other colors after. And I want to leave a little bit of a white space in the middle to kind of be a little bit of a halo around that dragonfly. And since this is such a fun random pattern, you really don't have to be careful at all when stamping it. That looks like a mess, but trust me, it's going to be gorgeous at the end. That's usually my advice. If you're making something and you're not liking how it's coming out, just see it through to the very end. So next we're going to use the smoky slate. And this one, I'm going to be coming right up to the edge. These are some of my favorite stamps, these like artistic looking stamps that you can kind of create your own masterpieces easily. I just love them. You don't have to be careful when you stamp. If part of the image isn't perfect, it doesn't matter. It's so forgiving. I just love these. There we go. And aside from that little green bit, ignore that over there. It'll get covered up with Bermuda Bay. I almost thought about stopping here and just leaving the background gray and yellow and putting my butterfly in the middle. But I decided to keep going to see how it would turn out. And I grabbed my Bermuda Bay ombre ink pad. I just think these are so cool. I'm being lazy and not cleaning my stamp in between, just stamping it off for the sake of time. And then when you ink up on these ombre ink pads, you do kind of want to dance back and forth a little bit. But again, this particular stamp is so forgiving, you don't have to be all that careful. And we're just gonna go around in a circle again. I did try to keep my stamp close to the edge, just like the gray. So any spots I kind of missed, I went back over. Like I said, this is super forgiving. And the ombre effect is really cool too, because you're getting all different tones of that Bermuda Bay in those polka dots with one stamp and one ink pad. Super easy. And just pouncing back and forth and going all around. This was just a really, really fun card to create. And honestly, guys, I love how it turned out. And is there no better feeling than that? Like, that's my favorite thing about introducing people to stamping, is seeing and hearing how like proud they are of their creations. Like, I made that. It's so cool. And that's totally how I felt. I'm by no means a new crafter, but you still get that feeling when you make something and you're really happy with how it turned out. You get that happy little proud feeling, and totally how I felt with this card. I just love how it turned out. I hope you guys do too. All right, so that's all to create our background, and isn't that so pretty? It's the perfect like focal point for that dragonfly. And I didn't really say that's all, because looking at it, I loved it. I thought it was cute, but like I said, I was in a messy mood. I wanted to play and get messy. So I decided to do a little bit of like an ink spritzing using my marker. So the Stampin' Right markers have a brush tip and a fine point. So when I want to create like a little bit of ink spray, I have a special basic black marker that I pretty much use just for that. And you just want to put the point on the inside of the cap and flick. And then you want to be a little careful when you do this, because you're gonna get these little ink sprays all over. That's actually what happened to my So Saffron ink pad. I accidentally splattered that too. But you can just flick the marker against the inside of the cap and you get this really nice fine splatter effect. And I thought that really added the finishing touch to this background piece. So on this card here, you can see that I used a little scrap of smoky slate to stamp thanks onto. But there's so many great sentiments in this stamp set that I wanted to show you another option. And that was this one, To a Wonderful Friend. So you could do the same thing and just use that sentiment going further across the bottom. But I also want to show you how I did thanks. So here's another little scrap piece of smoky slate. And this sentiment says, "Thanks for the smile and everything else." And all I really wanted was a little thanks to go on the bottom of this card. I really wanted the dragonfly to be the focal point. So again, with the Stampin' Right marker and the brush tip side, you can just color in the word thanks, and it's a super easy way of masking. You don't need Post-it tape or masking paper or anything. You just kind of scribble over the word thanks, being careful not to get any ink on the other letters. And then stamp it down. When you're stamping using the markers, I do find sometimes I do get little splotchy areas, and then I just pull in the fine tip side of the marker and kind of fill it in. You can touch up any areas that you missed. This works too if you're stamping even with an ink pad, and you kind of make a little bit of a mistake or have a little area that didn't get inked very well. You can come in with the coordinating marker and just kind of touch it up. So that's how I used this larger sentiment for just the word thanks. But I think on the card we're making now, I'm just going to use To a Wonderful Friend. And to create that dovetail, I'm not great at doing it with scissors, so I usually will just bring in my banner punch. So to do that, I kind of push it through till I see the word and then bring it back a little bit. You kind of have to judge about where it is. And then punch, and then you have a perfect little banner on that side. But we're gonna use To a Wonderful Friend on this one. So I'm gonna bring in, I don't know where I put it. Guys, be happy you can't see my whole desk. It's such a mess. So I'm gonna use my fast fuse to put my basic black down. I've really just been loving the fast fuse. And you guys are going to want to stay tuned to the end of the video today because I'm going to show you some of my Dragonfly outtakes, because you can be sure this was not the first Dragonfly I created. I made a bunch of different ones trying to figure out what I liked best for this card. It's been really fun playing with this set. So I'm going to lay that down right in the middle, and then I'm going to layer our beautiful background piece that we created next. I am just beyond excited that January is here. In just a few short days, on January 4th, you'll be able to order all of these products from the brand new Occasions catalog in my online Stampin' Up! Store. I'll have that linked in the description box below, like I do in every video, along with any current promotions that are going on, so you guys don't miss out on any of that. I'm also going to be having a really fun Valentine's Day card class coming up that I am super excited about. So make sure you subscribe so you don't miss that. All right, just trying to see where I want this. I think I'm just going to cut off a little bit. I apologize, this video is longer than most of mine are, because I guess I usually make quick and simple cards, and that makes for a quicker video. But I think that's cute. You know, sometimes you just want to get your hands dirty and make a mess and enjoy playing for a while. So to adhere my Dragonfly, I used some fast fuse on the wings just to make sure it had a really strong hold. Again, that bottom layer that we have there is watercolor paper. And with all the layers there, this thing is pretty heavy. But then I did use a little line of the fine tip glue just along his tail and on his head. Just because it is hard to get the fast fuse into those tight places. And then once you have them where you want them, oops, just squish them right down. Ugh, isn't that just gorgeous? I feel like I'm way too proud of myself over this card. I really hope you guys enjoyed it. I just love how this card turned out. And you could really switch it up and use all different colors in the background and make this look totally different. It would be really pretty with like pinks or purples. Such a fun stamp set. I am just so excited for January 4th when all of these new products from the new 2017 Stampin' Up! Occasions catalog are going to be available in my online store, and you can get them all too. You're going to love this set. And as I promised, I have some butterfly outtakes to show you guys. So one other thing that I tried doing with the watercolor paper that I wasn't happy with in the beginning and was super happy with in the end was I die cut the intricate butterfly out of it and used Wink of Stella over it, and then I layered it with black. So here you can see how gorgeous that Wink of Stella looks. I hope you can see. It's so hard to capture the Wink of Stella on video, but I think you can see a little bit of that glimmer. It's so much prettier in person. And then the other butterflies that I tried were stamped ones, because let us not forget, it is a stamp set. I know we only really use the background and the sentiment on this card, but these are the butterflies that you can create using the stamp. And I also used the ombre ink pad to stamp the wings for these, and then I went over them in Wing of Stella, and here you can definitely see, I think, on the video how gorgeous that is. I can see the shimmer myself right now, but I'm going to be using these on another project for sure. So make sure you subscribe to my channel so you don't miss that video and all of the other crafty fun I have coming up. I have a really fun Valentine's Day card class you guys are not going to want to miss. And let us not forget, Sale-A-Bration is also starting January 4th, where you can earn free products for every $50 you spend. It's my favorite Stampin' Up time of year. So thank you guys so much for tuning in and taking the time to watch this video today. I really hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. I will see you in my next video. As always, any questions, feel free to contact me. There's a link down below where you can do that. Thanks so much, guys. Bye.